Good morning, guys. Just here to show you guys how to set up your TradingView account. So I use the Pro Plus version. I use a little more indicators. I think 5 is the limit for the Pro version, so I upgraded to the second one. For data, that they just recently took out the TSX from the free ones for the trial, so I paid for that it's only $9. It's well worth it. I also pay for the American exchange because the company that they use is slightly delayed, and when you're trading S&P options, it moves too quickly, and if you're behind a couple seconds, that can be sometimes hundreds or thousands of dollars that you're missing out on either by buying or selling at the right time. So I always try and get the most accurate data as I can. So the main indicators I use are the 5 and 10 moving average, the blue and red lines, and Bollinger bands, second and third standard deviation, the stochastic, and the RSI. So I'll show you guys how to set that up. I also use VWAP on the 5-minute. I'll briefly explain what each indicator does, and in the future we'll have another video that goes over how to use them in a little bit more detail. So we're going to go through, delete all these things, and I'll show you guys how to set it up on your own. It's really not too hard. And I'll go through some tips and tricks, just other common problems people run into with TradingView. So up here is the indicator tab. We're going to open this. So we're going to do Bollinger bands. We're going to add 2 of them. So these are both going to be 2 standard deviations. So we're going to go into here, which is how to edit it. We're going to change the standard deviation to 3. So most of the price action in most stocks stays within the 2 standard deviations. So when it goes outside of there, that's generally, you start looking for either an entry or an exit. It's not 100%. Sometimes they can just ride the Bollinger band straight down. So like here, when we were tanking really bad in December, it just kind of rode the Bollinger band the whole way down. So you always want to wait for confirmation of it going back upwards. So if we go down to here, which was also in December, we went down, but then we started getting confirmation up. And then that would be a pretty good place to put your stop loss in, because there's not really too much risk. If you're buying right around here, you're only risking a couple bucks. Okay, so that's the Bollinger bands there. They also work on different time frames too, but they're not gonna react quite as rapidly in the 4-hour and the daily chart as opposed to the 5-minute and the 1-minute. So like here, for example, we went outside the second standard deviation and almost touched the third standard deviation. So that's where you'd be looking for like a sell target, and then when we started going back down, that'd be a good place to cut. So the next thing we're going to add in is the moving averages. I use the EMA as opposed to the SMA personally. So you can add in as many of these as you like. I only use the 5 and the 10. Especially on the 5-minute chart, that's usually good enough for me. The mid Bollinger band is also a 20 moving average, so that takes care of that. On the daily chart, the 50, 100, and 200 are also good to have because those can act as pretty strong resistance and support levels, as we saw on Friday for the S&P. So I'm just going to add in 2 of these. You can add in as many as you like. Again, I do mostly day trading, so I use the 5 and the 10. It's one of my favorite indicators for sure. So we got to change the length of the period to 5 days instead of 9 for that. And then we're going to change this to a 10-day. And then I usually change the colors. So I like having one in red and blue because it's a lot easier to see. So we're going to make this one like a nice dark blue there. And then we're going to change the 10-day to like a bright red color. So it's just really easy to tell the difference and when they're crossing and that kind of thing. Let's try that. So there, it should, as you can see, it's pretty, pretty easy to see when they're crossing, when they're that vivid, and there's not too much, like they don't camouflage into the background or anything like that. So one of my favorite ways to use the 5-10 cross, so when it crosses up, that's usually a good sign that price is changing direction. So same as up here, you can see they crossed here. So that's usually what I use to confirm the price going back up or down, whatever direction you're looking to play. As we were here, you can also set alerts. So I usually have the S&P moving average crosses to alert me. So if I'm looking at a different chart, the S&P will let me know if it's changing direction. So if you right click on here, you can do add an alert. I do crossing up or crossing down the 5, it doesn't really matter. And then these are just changing the date, and if you can get it to send you an email and stuff. I usually just have it pop up and send a beep. So we would go to the EMA, and then we would also make one for going downwards, and then that'll just let you know when the S&P is probably changing direction. It doesn't always happen, so sometimes it'll cross, and then like 5 seconds later it'll cross back down, but it's usually like just a good thing to keep an eye on. So that's how you set up alerts. You can set them for anything. Like you can set for Bollinger Band crossing, you can set price crossing, any of that stuff. And then they just show up in this alarm clock over here, and you can delete them, or if they're getting too annoying, like sometimes it'll happen quite frequently, and then you would just pause it or delete it. Okay, so after that I use the stochastic and the RSI. So I'll add in the RSI and the stochastic. The stochastic and the RSI function very similarly. They have slightly different values, and sometimes one will lead the other or vice versa. I'll explain more in depth of like how they're created in another video. So we have those two, and then the last one for me is the VWAP, which is just volume and price. Usually bearish below, bullish above, so also can be a buy signal. So as you can see here, both moving averages crossed over the VWAP, which is a good sign, so that would have been a good buying opportunity on Friday. Yeah, so that's basically how you set those up. We'll just go over maybe drawing some trend lines really quickly. So trend line buttons here, the horizontal lines here, that's where I draw my support and resistances from. The backspace is up here, you can hit Control Z. So right here, another trick that Phantasma pointed out is you can use this here. It's a magnet, so it helps you pick the support and resistances a little bit more accurately. For here, this is one of the resistances I was looking at on Friday. So went up, got rejected, came back down, hit it exactly again right here. Again, another really good sell signal would be right there. And then we would have some support down around here. So it just makes it really easy to draw these support and resistances on. It's not going to be perfect. You just have to try and get as many data points as you can. So right there, like 272.5. We went below that a couple pennies, like down to like 42 and 40, I think. But for the most part, it's pretty close. So then trend lines is this button here. I'm going to click here, try and get as many data points as we can in. For this, yeah, probably around here. So it didn't actually come down and hit this trend line, but came pretty close. This one on Friday was really bullish close. So it came back to test the 20-day moving average here and then just continued upwards. So that's how you draw trend lines. I'll do another video explaining more of how we do them and that kind of thing and the thought process behind it later. So another thing you can do here, so if you're looking at the daily chart when you have all this stuff, it gets really crowded. So like here, like sometimes you'll have 10, 20, 30 support and resistances on the 5-minute and it gets really crowded. So we can go in here and double click. So on here we go to the visibility and you can change if you wanted to show up on which time frames. So we'll just leave it on minutes so then it's not going to crowd up our daily chart as bad. Same as these two here. So double click, we'll get rid of that. And then one more time. So now when we go back to our daily chart, the lines are all gone. So if you're trying to draw like major trend lines and major support and resistances, it's not going to show up on the same thing and get you confused. Another question we get a lot is the auto function is at the bottom. So this can sometimes get annoying if you're on the 5-minute chart or 15 or whatever. It doesn't let you move it up or down. So we want to click auto off, which is in the bottom right corner here. And then this is going to let you drag using the crosshairs up here. So that'll let you draw up or down, whichever you need to look at here. So that can sometimes be important. I normally leave it on auto, just it keeps it a little smoother, but that's just another option. The log scale here changes the visualization of the price. I normally just use linear. Personally, I haven't had any problems with it, so that's just what I'm going to stick to. You can compare stuff sometimes here using this button. You can compare different tickers or different indexes, whatever you want. So if we want to look at, I don't know, let's say Apple. So we're going to have Apple here. Again, these are some lines I had drawn on before. So if we compare Apple to the S&P 500, we're just going to clear these lines off because it gets confusing. So we can compare it to the S&P, and that'll bring it up. And then you can see that they function pretty closely related. You can do all kinds. You can compare it to all kinds of stuff. So that's just another option up there. Up here, this lets you do like multiple charts in one time frame if you wanted to watch two or compare two or whatever. That's just another function there. If you want to share, we use this a lot in Slack. So you just go here, click the camera, then you hit copy, and then you just copy and paste it in there. If you want to copy it to Twitter or another social media, it's a little bit better to open a new tab. So if we do this and then copy paste, so then this gives us an image, and then this is going to be a lot easier to add to Twitter, whereas if you just copy and paste it, it just shows up as a link and then the people have to click it. So that's just another function there. So yeah, I strongly recommend using the magnet. Below here is the drawing mode, so that if I wanted to draw a whole pile of support and resistance lines all at once, you leave this function on, and then I just go like this, draw, and draw. So that just saves you a little bit of time rather than having to click it all the time. So yeah, anything else I got here? There's lots of other functions, like you can add text boxes in here, like if you wanted to say something. Oh, we're stuck in drawing mode, so that's why sometimes it's not beneficial to do that. There we go. Oh, we're still stuck. So yeah, then you click on it and say, add in whatever you want, like support here. Delete this one because I put that in by accident. And then there's an arrow function here, so we can draw like that. Ooh. So sometimes with the magnet, when you're drawing circles and that kind of thing, it's really irritating, so you might want to click that off. This is the brush here. That's where I draw like, oh look, this one outside the Bollinger Band, so that would be a good sell signal there. But if you have the magnet on, it gets really choppy and it's hard to draw the circles properly, so yeah, so that's pretty much everything for the first video, I think. Only other thing here is you can add watch lists up here, so whatever you want up in the corner, and then you just go to the add symbol here, and then that'll give you a watch list for whatever you're trying to track. Okay, all right, thanks guys, let's make some money.